Shouts to everybody. Hello. Thank you very much for joining me here, Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. I'm grateful consistently for your support of the brand and how far we've come. I want to say thank you to you. Boy, Chelsea seems to be getting all their results against the big boys, but then they fail to get the job done against the smaller teams. And why? I consistently ask myself why. After that game against Tottenham Hotspur, you can see that Chelsea's XG has shot up higher. Again, in a game against Manchester City, it is clear how good Chelsea were able to create chances. In fact, in the English Premier League, Chelsea have won on XG. In the 12 matches that they've played, they've won 11 times on XG. So, by way of context, XG is essentially the quality of chances that are created in games by the various teams. It's a metric that's used to measure that, especially the attacking performance of team, to be specific. But generally, the performance of teams and how good they are doing in the games that they are playing and whatnot. And Chelsea seems to be winning every game in XG. If you look at that game against Tottenham Hotspur, how Chelsea were able to bait Tottenham Hotspur out to the press, and the tweaking of the in-game management of Mauricio Pochettino, it tells you how good the team is doing. Same against Arsenal, using essentially a false number 9 to drop into central areas and then form that box midfield in central areas, then get in behind Arsenal's high press. That's exactly how Chelsea have been. And it is testament. If you look at the last game that they played against Manchester City, however, Chelsea essentially went toe-to-toe with them. I think that was classic Mauricio Pochettino high press. It is reminiscent of the 2015, 2016 to about 2019 Mauricio Pochettino Tottenham Hotspur versus Pep Guardiola Manchester City days, where Pochettino will go toe-to-toe with them. Essentially, the only difference, however, between a lot of teams that go toe-to-toe with Pep Guardiola and Pochettino's teams is the intensity of Pochettino's teams. And I've seen it with Espanyol and then also in a game against Chelsea. So guys, thank you very much. If you're not subscribed to the channel, do subscribe to the channel. My name is Fiifi-Manfred. This is Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. I will be back to tell you why Chelsea seems to be struggling against the smaller teams, but get a job done against the big ones. So after the Manchester City game, Mauricio Pochettino was asked if this is a springboard to the transformation of their season. Essentially, he did allude to the fact that this is a different game altogether. Chelsea can go and play some games where they will struggle. And I think Mauricio Pochettino was spot on, because if you look at what he's saying, he's essentially talking about the smaller clubs where Chelsea have played and Chelsea tend to struggle against them. And you ask yourself, why do Chelsea play this brilliant football? If you look at the game against Liverpool were very direct, played very well, but the Chelsea essentially controlled large parts of the game, using Enzo Fernandez and Moise Caicedo in central areas. And I think that central midfield partnership has become more telepathic now. Two South Americans who understand themselves and who are brilliant in ball progression. But I think that one of the things that essentially sets Chelsea apart and makes them play very well against the best teams who press very high is the instrument of Cole Palmer, and then the pulsar. That's with his game. I've essentially always consistently explained pulsar as the intelligence to control the intensity of an attack, when to stop, when to play forward, when to have a pulse, when to have a little dribble, when to tap onto the ball to the right or the left-hand side to calm down the game and whatnot. And those are the things that Cole Palmer has. Now, if you've watched every game that Chelsea has played, that Cole Palmer has been in there, what Chelsea essentially does is that in all of these teams that press very high, they use Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo essentially as the first line receivers of the ball. But right next to them, anytime the central area is coagulated or congested, you see Conor Gallagher dropping right behind them. And then Cole Palmer either darting on the right-hand side or on the left-hand side, anywhere that there is space, especially at the blind side of the opposing DM to receive the ball. And of course, that's exactly what he does. We see those balls in those blind areas. It happens several times against Arsenal on the right-hand side, where he would dart, and anytime he gets there, he doesn't take more than 2 touches on the ball. It is usually even a flick. Usually, once he gets there, Sanchez hits it hard, or whoever hits it hard, then he flicks it to whoever that's supposed to be next to him. Usually, it is Conor Gallagher to play forward. Now, there was another key component of the ball progression against Manchester City. Now, against Manchester City, what Chelsea essentially did anytime City pressed very high and they couldn't get out of the press, one of the things that helped Chelsea get out of the press is their very high technical and quality players and the confidence that they've built over time. So you see on the left-hand side where Axel Disasi will come, and then there is Marco Correa who's combining with him, and Raheem Sterling will come. Because of the fact that they are highly technical, especially for Marco Correa, who is brilliant in terms of ball progression in a back three, he was very, very brilliant in that job. They're able to play forward, play through the press, find one-touch passes, and they are confident with it, and then they're able to play out confidently. Now, the most important thing is sometimes it's not every time you're going to be able to play through presses. It's not possible. Football presses are somehow. Sometimes you get pinned into the corner. You get locked into the corner. And you realize that sometimes you have to be very careful. So one of the things I realized that were essentially responses or answers to the questions that City posed to Chelsea with respect to how much they could press them excellently and then lock them up in certain areas was the fact that they gave Mauricio Pochettino gave Robert Sanchez the license to go long. But in this license to go long, it is only when, if and only when, City have pushed very high such that there are only two centre backs there. And anytime that they are left with just two centre backs or three of their two centre backs there, Chelsea have to have two of their attackers occupying them. So it happened several times in the game against Manchester City where Robert Sanchez will be pinned. But immediately he raises up his head. He realizes that Chelsea's two centre forwards or Chelsea's two attackers in Sterling and Nicolas Jackson have pinned the two centre backs in there. Now, immediately they pin them. It is a trigger for him to go long. The plan is that Sterling is short, has a low center of gravity. He's obviously not going to win the aerial battle. Nicolas Jackson, obviously not going to win the aerial battle. They know that either Josko Vardy or Kyle Walker, who are usually at the back, will win those aerial battles. But it is what they do after they have lost the aerial battle that's important. And that is why they employed what they call the principle that they call the off-the-ball runners. And anytime Robert Sanchez kicks the ball long, you realize again in the videos I'll post and of course in annotations that will be here that Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, Conor Gallagher will not be watching Robert Sanchez. They would have turned, once they realize Robert Sanchez wants to go long, they will tend to watch the City area. Then they will start following the ball. Once the ball goes up into the intimate air, they go following the ball. The plan is that they know that Walker will win the area battle, and that's what actually led to Chelsea's. I think Sterling's goal. They go long. Kyle Walker won the ball off them. Then quickly, right next to them, there was an off-the-ball runner. I think in that case was Enzo Fernandez, who then splits the ball out right to Cole Palmer. The ball goes to the right-hand side. Then they cut back. Then Sterling is there. It is a typical Raheem Sterling goal. But essentially honed in detailed tactical setup. And it is these things that make Chelsea thrive because they are able to find spaces. It is actually difficult, much more technical, and it doesn't require a lot of patience to find spaces against the big boys. But when you play against the very, very stubborn teams, that is where you find it almost impossible to just split them apart and pull them in to find those spaces in behind. That's the problem. Of course, I'm going to go on the tactical board and I'll explain in detail to you exactly what I mean with what I'm saying. The two principles that Chelsea have used in terms of playing out from the back centrally and the extent of using Cole Palmer as an extra midfielder when they are playing against the big boys, and then going long with the off-the-ball runners who are very quick and aggressive, and they can go into these areas and win the second balls and then slot it in there to create an attack. It is so important. Very, very important. It helps Chelsea in creating high-quality chances. Now, we'll talk about XGs compared to Chelsea's XGs with the big boys and Chelsea's XGs compared to the smaller teams. And then we can make a proper juxtaposition of where the team is and where the team has come from, the strides they've made, the gains that they've made, and what's not in that regard. Yeah, but I want to go straight into the analysis on the tactical board. Yeah, so essentially Chelsea plays in a 4-2-3-1. Especially against the big boys. Even against the smaller teams, it's a 4-2-3-1 like this. Usually, most of the teams, the big boys, however, also come in a semblance of a 4-3-3 like that. like that. So against Manchester City, however, it was nominally a double pivot of Rodri and then Bernardo Silva. You have Julian Alvarez on the wide area, and then you have Julian Alvarez on the wide area. You have Bernardo Silva, Rodri, Bernardo Silva. Here you have Julian Alvarez, Jeremy Doku, and then Ellen Bros Haaland leading the lines. At the back, however, you have three essential centre backs in here. But then there's an extra fullback. So it was Josko Vardiol, Akanji, Ruben Diaz, then Kyle Walker in that regard for the City teams. And then you come up top and you have Rodri in here. You have Bernardo Silva in that hole again for them. Then up top you have your three attackers in that regard. Chelsea essentially went into a 4-2-3-1, Axel Desasi, Thiago Silva, Marc Cucurella, Reece James on the right-hand side, Enzo Fernandez, and then you have Moises Caicedo, Conor Gallagher, then you have Raheem Sterling, Cole Palmer on the right-hand side, and then Nicolas Jackson. So what I'm saying is that when Chelsea are playing against the big boys, now, these big boys are confident pressers of the ball. So, say Chelsea have the ball between the two centre backs here. Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer. Enzo Fernandez, Moise Caicedo open up. Now, Chelsea essentially are going to have a back three like this because Marc Cucurella, Axel Desasi, Thiago Silva. Then you have Reece James coming in to play as a winger. So that this is the man I'm talking about, Cole Palmer, in this regard here, when you have Cole Palmer here. Whilst Enzo Fernandez has opened up with Moise Caicedo in here, and Chelsea have a flat three here. If Robert Sanchez is in here and is in the post like this. Now, these are three to help Chelsea receive the ball. Now, in the second phase or the second line, you have Enzo Fernandez, Moise Caicedo in here. Then Cole Palmer has come inverted into this regard so that Reece James will keep the width. Now, Reece James is the first option. He can go straight to Reece James in here. Man City will press. Usually, Man City press with winger versus fullback, or sometimes they tack in centrally like that. So they close in on the first phase. Those who are going to press, those who are going to progress the ball. Now they leave the three men at the back like that. You have Erling Braut Haaland going to the ball-sided player. Then you have Bernardo Silva and the likes also leading the press in that regard. They follow up like this in central areas. It becomes essentially the three at the back like that. Then they have no free man because they are very, very good pressers, relentless pressers of the ball. Now, what this does is that anytime City have come with their midfielders, this time three, Julian Alvarez will come into central areas anytime they want to prevent Chelsea from playing through them centrally. Now, what they are going to do is that you have Julian Alvarez coming in centrally, you have Bernardo Silva, you have Rodri. Now, it's a 3v3 now. Anytime Chelsea realize that they want to play out on the back, Cole Palmer Reece James will be moving slowly to the wide areas. Immediately, he gets to this area. It's a trigger for Cole Palmer to come inside. He comes, he occupies this half space, he receives the ball. This happened several times in the game against Manchester City. It happened several times in the game against Tottenham Hotspur. He received the ball from here. That was a brilliant off-the-ball structure, that on-the-ball structure that Chelsea had to progress the ball in these zones. Immediately release the ball. Now, the whole press becomes disjointed. You have Willian runners in Nicolas Jackson. You have Raheem Sterling darting from these areas to get into space. You have Conor Gallagher coming as an off-the-ball runner that Chelsea essentially uses most of the times. Now, this is it. But against low block sides, against teams that sit in a very deep low block. Now, what Chelsea are supposed to do is that now this is an easier way. There's another option even before I go to the low block side. What Chelsea essentially also do without the ball, anytime they are playing against these big boys, is that now, anytime that Manchester City have the ball, they're going to play out with the two centre backs that are here. Now, Man City will use the inside number 10s. In this case, it was Phil Foden, it was Julian Alvarez, and then, of course, Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva will come from wide areas on the right, but it will come inside. Chelsea did a brilliant job using Enzo Fernandez, who was on his countryman, Julian Alvarez, and then every time, Moises Caicedo, who was also on Phil Foden. But Moises Caicedo was doing two things. On the right-hand side, he has to make sure that Bernardo Silva doesn't overload Reece James in those areas, and also make sure that he helps Doku in dealing with them in those far post areas. And it is in that aggression that they actually hit each other in the box that led to the match, the Manchester City goal in the box, in that foul on Marc Cucurella. So that is it in these areas. Anytime that Chelsea are playing against the big boys, you saw it against Arsenal. Cole Palmer will dart quickly into the half space here and then flick the ball. He doesn't stay on the ball for long. It's just a flick. He flicks the ball quickly, and then now they are willing runners into space. That's exactly what they do, and it's been brilliant. It's been very, very good, given how good they do this and how consistently they've done this against relentless presses of the game. And again, there's another way that Chelsea used to progress the ball, especially against Manchester City. Robert Sanchez is imposed. He has the ball. Man City are pressing very high and wide, 1v1. They are not leaving any free man. This is Ruben Diaz. He's essentially sometimes the kind of player that can track the run of Cole Palmer and then close him down. So across the field of play, everybody's locked up. But if he comes in to press like that and everybody's locked up and there's an extra man in here, Man City has an extra man in here as the two center backs at the back for them. Now, what Chelsea are supposed to do is simple. There's Conor Gallagher in here in this area for Chelsea. Now, once Conor Gallagher is here, Enzo Fernandez is here. Let's say Cole Palmer is actually here, and then Conor Gallagher is here. There's a free man in Moise Caicedo and the likes in central areas. Chelsea do a brilliant job in making sure that the only time they go long centrally, because there are times that he will go long to regimes here, there are times he will go to this area, but the only time they go long into these zones, into these central zones and the space are here, is only when they know that these two center backs are occupied by two of Chelsea's attackers. Usually was Jackson and Raheem Sterling. They know that Chelsea are not going to win the aerial battle, but it is the job of these two players, however, to make sure that they are quick off the ball runners without the ball to close in this space. So immediately Kyle Walker heads the ball in here. Now he is able to pick it up in Enzo Fernandez and then splits the ball to Cole Palmer to go outside. And that's exactly, of course, Sterling will continue his run into this area. And then this how exactly Sterling scored his goal against Manchester City. So it's a little bit easier for Chelsea to do against the big boys, but it's very, very difficult for them to do against the smaller teams. Now I'm going to go into a shape of, say, West Ham United, who play in a 5-4-1, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, exactly in the 5 zones on the field of play, and like that. So 5-4-1, like here. Now in this 5-4-1, Chelsea are in their 4-2-3-1 shape, essentially, like that. Now you want to make sure that when West Ham United are in this shape, what they want to do is that they want to shuffle from the left to right. Sofiane Koufal is helped by the winger, say Gerard Bowen. On the other side, they have another help in the wide areas. They have bulky center backs in this area. And then they have Edson Alvarez in here. They have Lucas Paqueta or whoever, or James Ward-Prowse, who is a transition monster. Immediately they get this ball. This is the most important part of the team in Mikel Antonio to hold up the play. Now, Chelsea's job, however, is that once there are 5 zones on the field of play, there are 5 zones, right? There's an outside, the left-hand space, the central areas here, and then the outside here, then the right-hand space. 5 zones on the field of play. Chelsea go into a 3-2-5. So 3 center backs here. Then there's a 2 to help in this area. Then the 5 are here to get the job done. There are times where Chelsea have gone into a 3-1-6 in that regard over there in most of the teams. So this is a 3-2-5 like that for Chelsea. Now Chelsea's job in these 2 players, usually it is Enzo Fernandez and Moise Caicedo, is to counter press. Anytime the ball goes loose, it should not get to him, so that the 3 center backs will be free to get the job done. Sometimes they come very deep like that. Now this is a bulky center back. If he's successful as an outlet, then there will be willing runners like what Chelsea does against the big boys. What Chelsea fails to do is that in this area you need a lot of patience, and you need more than just one technical pulsar player. Chelsea has just one on the right hand side in Cole Palmer. So you see Cole Palmer has come inverted. You're having regimes running over him like that. It's a good thing to do. But these boys are excellent in occupying the line in front of the box, such that if regimes comes in here and cuts the ball here, the balls that are going to fall here are not the best. So you realize that every time the XG for Nicholas Jackson is good, but then he is not a good manipulator of the ball. Usually some of the best manipulators of the ball, or what you usually say, he calms down the play, he calms down the ball, he massages it, he makes it clean and then hits it. He's not that kind of guy. And he's not that kind of guy that can also hit a rough play to hit the target. So Chelsea struggle to score from these areas. Now, what Chelsea are supposed to do essentially is to be more patient and have willing runners. And you saw it against Tottenham Hotspur, where Tottenham had a high line, but Chelsea were jittery. And it's a mark of an inexperienced team. It's a mark of an inexperienced team, because West Ham will shuffle. They will shuffle anytime the ball comes, right? They will shuffle like that. They will keep the line. They won't break the line ever. They're going to make sure that the line is short. You go to the wide areas, they will shuffle. They will go there again. Then they will make sure, yes, you can go wide areas. You switch play. You isolate 1v1. But immediately you isolate 1v1, the fullback will come, becomes 2v1. You need to make a lot of willing runs. They are tracking their runners. It is difficult. Now, it is why I feel like in most of these games, it's an issue of personnel, where if you have an extra line breaker like Kani Chukwuemeka, if somebody that can combine and play, then you have all of these things well. And that's why the quality of challenge Chelsea have, if you don't have somebody who's a ball manipulator, Chelsea struggle. So it is the shape and in the discipline of the low block sides and how difficult and patient it is. And it is something that's a mark of inexperienced teams. And if Chelsea go into an experienced side, these things won't be difficult to break through. They know that the goals will come. They know that they just have to be patient. Whilst the three centre backs keep an eye on him and then they counter press quickly. They will quickly have sustained spells of pressure on the opposing team and are going to get a goal. So that is essentially how Chelsea are able to beat the big boys, play through them, create quality chances, score, but they find it very hard to deal with the smaller teams. Yeah, so guys, this is where we end it. My name is Fiifi-Manfred. This is Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. I'm grateful. See you. Bye.